Tonight, multiple businesses in the village are damaged, prompting some to consider leaving the area altogether.
This is the fourth time it's happening, and every time money from my pocket.
Thousands of dollars in damage and a lingering uneasy feeling. What we know about the suspect in custody.
There was too many to count. It was like rapid fire. I don't even know what kind of gun that could possibly be unless it was multiple. It had to be multiple guns.
Plus, a deadly day in Toronto. 2 people are killed, 3 others injured. The latest on the police investigation into 2 separate shootings.
Not a cash grab. We're trying to get some compliance from motorists, really.
And defending a potential hike in parking fines. Why city staff say the current situation is not working. But we begin tonight with breaking news out of Brampton, where a Peel police officer has been struck by a vehicle while on the scene of another crash. You're looking live at Chinguacousy Road near Williams Parkway, and police say the initial collision happened just after 6 this evening. More than 2 hours later, a second collision occurring, and Peel police telling us a police officer was struck in that second incident while they're on scene. Paramedics say the officer was taken to hospital with critical injuries but is expected to survive. Back in Toronto now, and one business owner in the village is considering leaving the neighborhood after his business was attacked for a 4th time. Several businesses in the area had their windows smashed last night, resulting in thousands of dollars worth of damage. And as Dale Manukduk reports, it's not the first time the community has been hit like this.
This is the fourth time it's happening, and every time money from my pocket.
Farhad Garamani is fed up after the window at his business was smashed last night.
Security called me, Dad, you got vandalized. I said, I just left the shop. And it is 7:45. How could it happen?
The first time Eyes on Church was hit was in 2019, the night the Raptors won the NBA championship. Security video provided to CBC Toronto shows a person breaking through the door and stealing several items. 7 months later, it happened again. This time, 5 people broke in and stole upwards of $60,000 worth of inventory. The latest incident cost them over $700 to board up the window, and he'll have to pay another $2,600 to replace the glass. Several other businesses were also hit, including a TD Bank, a Rexall, and a bathhouse.
Multiple shop windows, multiple vehicles, damaging public infrastructure items, and from my understanding, potentially also assaulting people on the sidewalk. This occurred over an hour-long period with a police response shortly after 9:20 p.m.
In an email to the local BIA and other community members, Toronto police say that the person responsible was arrested and charged with mischief over $5,000, mischief under $5,000, and failure to comply with a probation order. At the time of the arrest, he was wanted by Durham Region. The email from police says the man arrested has a history of crime, including break and enter, theft, and assault. But the situation isn't foreign to the neighborhood. Last year, the owner of this hardware store says his windows were smashed over a dozen times.
We have people who are concerned about walking down the sidewalk. They're scared at times. There's people who've had issues with assault. We want to reiterate this is a safe and welcoming community, but there is a lot of concern around the behavior that we are seeing from certain members of the community.
Garamani says some of his high-end clients are hesitant to visit the village now, and he's considering leaving after 26 years in business.
I was talking to my lawyers today, look at my contract, look at my lease, how I can get out of it, because something has to be done.
The BIA says it's willing to work with the city, police, and community to figure out a strategy moving forward. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
Updating you now on another day of violence in Toronto. 2 people were killed and 3 others were sent to hospital after 2 separate shootings early this morning. Greg Ross has the latest on the police investigations.
There was a round of gunshots. There was a lot of gunshots. Pow, pow, pow.
This woman, who asked not to be identified out of concern for her safety, woke up to the sound of gunshots just before 4:30 this morning.
Oh, there was too many to count. It was like rapid fire. I don't even know what kind of gun that could possibly be unless it was multiple. It had to be multiple guns.
It was all happening on the street outside of her balcony in this building on Hickory Tree Road near Weston Road. She says police arrived quickly and found 2 men suffering from gunshot wounds. One of them was conscious at the time.
He was moving and he was asking for help. And they were trying. They were applying pressure and doing stuff, but the ambulance got here, by the time the ambulance got here, he wasn't moving anymore.
Police officers arrived very quickly and located 2 men suffering from gunshot wounds. Both of these men were transported to a local trauma center and pronounced deceased.
Police say at this point the motive behind the shooting is unclear, and they're still working to identify those responsible.
We're looking for witnesses. This is a very densely populated area, and although this occurred in the early morning hours, there are a lot of residents in this area that may have heard or seen something that may assist us in our investigation. And often it's small details that make a big difference.
Police are also investigating an earlier shooting that happened downtown at around 3 a.m. near Wellington and Blue Jays Way. Police arrived to find 2 people who had been shot.
There's a male, approximately mid to late 30s, that had sustained a gunshot wound to the leg, and a female in her early 20s that had sustained a gunshot wound to her hand and her finger more specifically.
They were taken to hospital and treated for their injuries. Another person was also injured in the shooting and went to hospital on their own.
That individual was in their 30s as well, also believed to be on the sidewalk in that area at the time, and they they actually had sustained an injury to their lower back or mid-back. Based on our preliminary investigation, we do believe that this was a targeted shooting.
Investigators are now in the process of reviewing security footage from both scenes in hopes that it may shed some light on what exactly happened. They're also hoping that video may help identify any potential suspects. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Meantime, 2 Toronto police officers have admitted to misconduct related to their role in the arrest and tasering of a young black university student. Hassani Ogilvy was stopped, tasered, and kneed in the neck in what turned out to be a case of mistaken identity. His mother says the incident has caused him to turn inward even more and has had a negative impact on his mental health.
This is now the 3rd year. We're entering the 3rd year. For the first 2 years, he took time off from college. He didn't share much. As a matter of fact, many of what happened to him, I learned a year later. He didn't share with me everything. The video is there, but I don't have the strength to look at it.
One officer placed his knee on Ogilvy's neck for an extended period and tasered him 5 times. Constable Seth Wrightcoder pleaded guilty to unnecessary force and received a 12-month demotion, while Sergeant Rachel Saliba pleaded guilty to unlawful arrest. A lawsuit in connection with the incident was settled at the end of last year. All right, taking a look at our city right now, 8 degrees, and it's still very mild, obviously, but buckle up. Some epic winds are about to usher in a whole different feel. Colette is back with us again tonight. And after today's mild thunderstorm, it seems we're getting a little bit of everything this week. Hey, Colette?
I know, Chris, so much to talk about with the weather that is like, where do we begin? Well, yes, obviously some very mild temperatures, especially in southwestern Ontario, and I am going to get to that. And also the thunderstorms in February, not impossible. We know that it happened, but unusual. However, I do want to start with what's going to be coming our way, because I want everyone to be aware of this. How you dress tomorrow morning and how you dress the kids for school is not what they're going to need at the end of the day, as temperatures will be changing dramatically. So we have a weather statement. It does include the city here, and it is for the very strong northwesterly winds that are going to kick in tomorrow afternoon and drive the temperature down. Anyone traveling to the east towards the Ottawa Valley, know that there is a flash freeze warning in place there, and beyond that, even a wind warning. So lots to go through. Now, Sarnia, 20 degrees. How about Windsor? 21 with sunshine today. And as I look through the records, not just for this date, but for the entire month of February, it looks like the warmest you've ever been in this month since we've been keeping records. Well, another round of thunderstorms on the doorstep there, coming through the overnight by 2 a.m., mostly beyond Windsor. But then it's in those overnight hours that we'll get that round coming through the GTA again. So thunder waking you up around 3:30. It certainly is going to be possible, and then that cold air will be coming in tomorrow, changing any wet weather over to some flurries. Lots to talk about still. I'll go into the details of all of this, but know that we'll be into the teens tomorrow early and then drop to 2 degrees by the afternoon.
My goodness, what a drop. All right, thank you, Colette. We'll talk to you again a little later on in the show. New data obtained by CBC News confirms that Ontario's public colleges have been helping fuel Canada's sudden growth in international students. But the colleges say they were just doing what the feds and provinces were encouraging them to do. CBC's senior reporter at Queen's Park, Mike Crawley, has that story.
To attend a college or university in this country, international students must get a study permit. Well, Canada has been handing out a whole bunch of these permits, according to data obtained by CBC News. More than 1.5 million over the past 6 years. It means foreign students have brought tens of billions of dollars into Canada's post-secondary schools, while governments froze or cut funding to the system.
It's a cash cow. The schools rely on foreign students to fatten the school's wallet.
Back in 2018, about 90,000 international students got permits to attend a college or university in Ontario, comparable to the rest of Canada. By last year, Ontario's numbers soared to nearly 240,000, far more than every other province combined, fueling demand in already hot housing markets.
In Ontario, it's been explosive and reckless.
Immigration consultant Earl Blaney says international student numbers in this province really spiked in the past 2 years.
This is not a one or two school problem. Yeah, this is an expansive problem through many public institutions in Ontario.
While Ontario universities do recruit international students, the data show colleges drew in far bigger numbers. Officials from several colleges say they simply did what federal and provincial governments wanted: recruit international students to fill the need for skilled workers, regardless of the pressure on the housing market. We put a question to the immigration minister.
What responsibility does the government bear in this?
Well, look, we all have our share of responsibility, but there's a bit of, colleges are coming in and pleading excellence. They're now pleading innocence.
And now Ottawa is slashing the number of permits to be issued nationwide. It means Ontario faces the prospect of 100,000 fewer international students this year compared to last.
Colleges and universities have now hit the panic button because on the table is the flow of foreign students to their institution. And you're talking $20,000 per student. That's a lot of money when you have hundreds, if not thousands, of foreign students at your school.
So, how does the Ford government intend to make up for all that lost revenue? We asked the Minister of Colleges and Universities that question several times yesterday and today and did not get a clear answer. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Meantime, at Queen's Park today, the opposition once again going after Premier Doug Ford over the appointment of 2 of the Premier's former staffers to a committee that helps pick judges.
Yesterday in this chamber, he doubled down, saying he plans to personally interfere in the process to ensure that like-minded people are appointed. These statements are being widely condemned as disgraceful and dangerous, Speaker.
Oh, Mr. Speaker, I'm not going to double down. I'm tripling down now. We're going to triple down on making sure our communities are safe. We're going to triple down on getting judges that believe in throwing someone in jail when they kick the doors in, put a gun to people's heads, terrorizing their kids, terrorizing the parents.
So here's the background. The committee at issue selects a list of potential candidates to become judges. All must be lawyers with at least 10 years experience. And it's the Attorney General who makes the final decision. He responded to the criticism during question period.
There's a fundamental misunderstanding of what judicial independence is, and it's not appointing the judges. They are not to be appointing their own. We are democratically elected to select judges, and then they have their independence. So I'll take no lectures from the NDP.
Yesterday, 2 associations representing thousands of lawyers wrote letters to the Premier, reminding him that judges are to be appointed on merit, not political allegiance. The opposition leader said her party is looking at whether to submit a complaint to the Integrity Commissioner. Taking you next to City Hall, where hiking Toronto's parking fines was up for debate again today. A key city committee narrowly approving a proposal to increase multiple fines. City Hall reporter Sean Jeffords has that story.
Getting a parking ticket in Toronto could be about to get more expensive. The city's infrastructure committee backed a plan to increase some fines for the first time in decades. Councillors endorsed the plan narrowly in a 3-2 vote. Deputy Mayor Jennifer McKelvey insists this is about enforcing the rules of the road.
The fines are also so low that in many cases people will just take the risk of parking somewhere when they know they can't. So that is really the problem that we want to solve.
Many of the fines would more than double, jumping from $30 to $75. The city estimates the increase will generate around $40 million a year in additional revenue. But the city's transportation services manager insists this isn't about raising money for Toronto.
It's not a cash grab. We're trying to get some compliance from motorists, really. Like Councillor McKelvey said, if we didn't see any revenue whatsoever, then we've done our job.
The number of parking tickets issued in the city has climbed in recent years, with over 2.2 million doled out last year. Capano says the city is hiking some specific fines to crack down on dangerous behavior like parking in bike lanes. Under this plan, a ticket for parking in a bike lane would jump from $150 to $200.
Parking in bike lanes is a big issue in the city. We constantly have parking offenses increasing year over year with that particular parking offense. So that's why we revisited them.
But a pair of councillors on the committee say they don't support the planned increase. Councillor Mike Cole admits he just got a $113 ticket on a recent trip to the pharmacy. But his concerns are focused on affordability.
We aren't going to solve Toronto's financial problems by increasing parking tickets. I mean, Toronto's already a hyper-expensive city to live in, so we've got to be very careful.
When you are seen to unfairly, unreasonably, all of a sudden double them willy-nilly for no good reason, then I think what happens is that angers people.
If City Council adopts the increases, they would go into effect August 1st. They'll debate the plan next month. Sean Jeffords, CBC News, Toronto.
Returning now with new research highlighting the food insecurity problem in this country. Food charities across Canada can expect a nearly 20% increase in demand in 2024. And that means around 1 million Canadians are expected to use services like food banks for the first time this year. Tyler Cheese takes a closer look.
Right now, there are 74 organizations in Toronto who are asking for our help that we simply can't accommodate.
According to Second Harvest, around 100,000 Torontonians are expected to access food charities for the first time in 2024. That's a 30% increase from last year. Second Harvest redistributes surplus food to charitable organizations across Canada, but the charity says it can't keep up with the demand.
The problem of food insecurity in this country is enormous. And what's scary is that we're normalizing this, that this is the new normal is not acceptable. When, 1 in 5 people can't get the food that they need.
New research from Second Harvest finds that more than 1/3 of around 4,000 food charities surveyed in December say they've been forced to turn people away. That's why the charity is calling on all levels of government to take action, including asking Toronto to implement a program to redistribute food left over from large events and festivals.
No one should have to ask God for money to buy groceries. No kid should go to bed hungry. No person should go to bed hungry.
While Mayor Olivia Chow was on hand to discuss the problem, she didn't directly respond to the charity's request. Instead, she focused on top-down solutions.
We have a housing crisis in our country and in our city because for 30 years we have not built any affordable housing. That's the core of it. Because if people don't have to pay so much in rent, they will have some money left over for food.
The mayor outlined funding in the city's budget for more affordable housing, including 1,300 planned rent-geared-to-income units and more support programs for renters. But those working in the sector say more funding for nonprofits is needed immediately.
The hope and the prayer is that the funders or even Canadians or the people that actually have the resources, they can see this as a very, I'm going to say simple solution.
The research also indicates that nonprofits need an average of $76,000 additional dollars to meet the demand anticipated in 2024. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
A live look at Toronto after yet another unseasonably warm day and a warm evening as well. Still hovering around 8 degrees at this late hour. And Colette, this week's roller coaster weather ride takes quite a turn tomorrow.
Yeah, from record heat to very strong winds and Arctic air making its way in. So I'm just going to go over again. Know that tomorrow we have a special weather statement for Toronto, much of the GTA, and certainly to the north and to the east. And there you get into a flash freeze risk as well because the temperatures will be dropping so quickly. It's going to make for some nasty road conditions. Now, it's going to be relatively short-lived, about 36 hours or so before the temperatures really change. For the weekend, mild again, but even on Friday afternoon, we'll be climbing above seasonal. So Thursday's really our cooler day, but it begins tomorrow afternoon. Now, we still have these thunderstorms rolling in tonight into southwestern Ontario, and through the overnight hours, we get more rumbles of thunder and a lot of lightning strikes again with these storms coming through. So you'll be hearing that. Maybe you have a dog who doesn't quite like to hear that thunder. Might wake you up if it doesn't on its own. That carries on. Still mild tomorrow morning, mild temperatures. Then the winds change direction to the northwest. They will become quite breezy, gusting from 70, maybe even exceeding 80 kilometers an hour. We'll see that cold air then mixed with some of this moisture changing over to an icy mix, although there's not so much of that, and a little bit of snowfall. But then across the lakes, we've still got a lot of open water, so we're looking at snow squalls that will be setting up in the lee. So by tomorrow evening, some of these flurries making their way into Toronto. Certainly we could be seeing some flurries, and it won't end there. That risk into Thursday as well. Eventually we will see those winds calming down, but this is that profile and that change of direction, that southerly flow keeping the heat in, and then by midday we're seeing that change to the west, and then eventually it's coming around to the northwest. So that's going to drive the Arctic air in. Enjoy the milder temperatures through the overnight. We'll see those kind of nearly steady. We'll probably drop to around 8 or 9 into Toronto for kind of our low. Then tomorrow morning up to 13, and then boom, that temperature falling sharply into the afternoon. We'll be at about 2. Overnight we'll be at -8, and we don't even get above freezing then on Thursday, Chris.
Oh my, boom indeed. Okay, thank you, Colette. Have a great night. And that is it for us tonight. I'll be back with you tomorrow night at 11, and we'll see you then.